I can't believe my weirdest idea yet actually worked. We've taken all our strips and we cut them down into 3.5-inch pieces, 1 1/32 by 5/8. And then I took and I put them into the grid that I'm going to use to make the bowl. I have some bamboo skewers. I'm going to insert these between each one of these and create a gap. So I'm going to start now we're going to do it in the other direction. There we go. Spacers are put in. Now we're going to have to glue them together and set it up so that I can get it into a pressure pot and put some resin in there. Here I'm gluing bamboo skewers to the top of the segments. I'll glue them in the X and the Y direction so I can hold those segments straight. I need to remove all of the spacers skewers from between them because I need to pour epoxy into there. Once that epoxy cures, I can pull that top off and those pieces of maple will be suspended in the epoxy and I can turn and create the illusion that I'm looking for of a segmented bowl with no segments. Got ourselves a bowl. Drop some epoxy, put some color in it. The wife has chosen sapphire blue. But here we go. I think we're going to need more epoxy. It's 1.5 liters sapphire blue. I want to be sure to get it into those gaps because I don't want any air pockets in there. So I'm going very slowly, adding it in. I'm going to do another 1.5 liters. Not really. I think we need another little bit more. 3 3/4 liters we're adding into this big, huge bucket. Now it's floating. Probably take it off tomorrow or the day after. The weight comes off pretty easy. There's the grid we put in, so that's the bamboo top holding the top together. Not that heavy. That, I'm thinking now, there you go. That was the money shot. That it would drop right out, which it did. Back here at the lathe, it's been mounted on. I'm about to turn it. I'm going to have to turn dust on. I already got some dust collection on. We're going to get a lot more turned on. Back here at the workbench, I have the piece mounted in a contraption so I can get access to it and I can spin it around. When I put the piece together, I think the epoxy was below the top of the segments, and I think it didn't absorb the epoxy all the way through. The bottom was epoxy to a piece of plywood, so I couldn't get anything in there. So what ended up happening was I have the center section where no epoxy got in. I also have a bit of tear out here and here, so I have mixed up some clear coat. It should set relatively quickly. I've run it through the vacuum pot, and now I'm going to apply this. This thing really likes to spin, so I kind of got what I wanted there. All right, I'm gonna let it sit. Give it a few minutes. I'll come back and take a look at it. Several weeks later, I had a lot of projects going on, so I didn't get a chance to get back to this. The epoxy top coat is fully cured, and now I'm going to sand it from 400 to I think 600. There's a couple of dust specks, maybe some runs, but I'm just going to clean it up with some sandpaper and eventually hit it with some Waterlux semi-gloss. With the sanding done, I'm going to move on to some abrasive paste. That's going to give me a final polish before I move on to some Waterlux. The abrasive paste fully applied, start to see the shine. There's really not any finish on here, just the epoxy top coat, and here it is right here. You can see it really start to shine up. Now for the final finish on the outside and the inside of the bowl, I'm going to go with a Waterlux semi-gloss just to kind of clean it up and give it a little bit more of a shine. A day or two later, I'm having some audio trouble, so I have to do a voiceover and editing. The bowl is still mounted in the lathe, and I need to cut the glue block off from the bottom. I got the tailstock pulled up, and I'm holding it in place so it doesn't come flying off the lathe. The glue block is tapped and it's screwed onto the lathe itself, and that is hot glued to a piece of plywood that is glued or epoxied onto the bottom of the bowl. I am going to slice it right at that piece of plywood and create a foot for this bowl and remove that glue block. I'm going to start with a 16th inch parting tool, kind of work my way in. I kind of want to come in to be concave. I will then alternate back and forth with my 3/8 parting tool and my 16th inch parting tool because the tool gets very hot. So the 3/8 I make it a little bit bigger so I can get that tool in there at an angle and create a concave bottom. Getting real close now. There's probably half an inch of footer on there. As you can see, I'm going to try and move it here in my hand. I don't want it to snap on the lathe and have the lathe throw it or to ruin the piece. So there it goes. I just broke it, pull the tailstock back, and the bowl is detached from the glue block. There we are. There's still a nub left on the bottom where the glue block was attached to the bowl. I'm going to sand that off and clean the bottom up, then apply epoxy top coat. With the sanding done, I wipe it down and get any dust off from it. I've mixed up some designer epoxy art cast that cures relatively quickly, and I'm going to put a thin coat on the bottom. So I'm going to apply it to the foot and to the edges. I'm going to try not to get it onto the sides. I try not to get a line there. I might have to resand, I'm not sure yet. This is the buffing system. You start with a brown buffing polish, you go to a white diamond, and then you'll hit it with a wax. By the time you're done, you end up with a bowl that's nice and smooth and shiny and ready for show. So here I'm polishing the inside. It's hard to get into the bowl with those big, large buffing wheels. So this little small one gets you inside the bowl. I'll use the same wax. I'll start with the brown, I'll go with the diamond, and then to the wax to the end. So here's the bowl all finished. I'm happy with the way it came out. This is my second epoxy bowl. I learned a lot. I made some mistakes. think I can do a better job. I did it again. I like working with the epoxy. I like combining the epoxy and the wood. I don't know if I love this particular method, but I saw it online and I wanted to try it, and I did, and it worked out. So there it is.